Welcome to the Poisoner's Cabinet. I'm Sinead.
And I'm Nick.
And this is your weekly podcast exploring the lives of the great poisoners and poisoning cases from across the centuries and creating curious cocktails inspired by the tales that we tell. And it's episode 24.
24. Almost at a quarter of a century.
Quarter of a century? That really makes a girl think. How are you, Nick?
I'm very well. I have gin. All is well.
You have a glass entirely of gin.
Very large glass of gin. Larger than I was intending, but it's damn good.
Shock to all of our listeners. We do sometimes drink before we get to our cocktail. And it's been one of those days, hasn't it?
And during and after.
Yes, I'm mixing quite badly here. I have a lovely craft beer on the go because I was tired and I haven't eaten well. And I was like, those are calories. Those are fine. It's all good. Any poisonings this week, Nick?
Not that I'm aware of.
But accidentally, there could have been some.
I mean, there could have been many.
Just dropping bleach in people's tea as you go willy-nilly. You know what we need to do?
What do we need to do?
We have to thank our Patreon subscribers.
That we do. Those crazy, crazy people who are giving us money. We love you very much.
Gorgeous people who have subscribed this week. We would like to thank... I was going to say spank there, but...
it's an option.
Maybe that's the third tier. There we are. We would like to thank Stacey Watson.
Jess Linton.
Sarah Johnson.
Kendra Toshiki.
Alexis Schrantz.
And Dorothy Olive.
We hope we said all of those right. And we love you.
Thank you very much.
We've had a lot of love this week, actually. We've had some cracking episodes.
Because my one was bloody marvellous.
As we discussed in the last Patreon episode, that Nick does think he is Christ. Quite a few people have said that they want this cult to start.
Absolutely, I think so. I did like the suggestion of my power being turning sparkling water to Prosecco.
That is a marvellous thing.
That's a marvellous gift to have.
And we've come up with a name for our new Patreon episodes as well. Deadly Nightcaps.
Deadly Nightcaps, I like that name.
What you're getting. We also have another little promo for you this week. Always happy to share the love with other podcasts. And this week's promo is from the gorgeous duo at Hardly Paranormal podcast. Really great show. We love these guys. Have a listen.
Hey, how does Bigfoot tell time?
I don't know. How?
He checks his Sasquatch.
I'm Jerry.
And I'm Lacey, and we're the hosts of the Hardly Paranormal podcast, where every week we examine cases of the strange and unusual and try to find out what's really going on.
Is the Black Monk of Pontefract just a trick of the eye?
Could the Loveland Frogman just be a deformed iguana?
What about Will-o'-the-Wisps?
Poltergeists?
Leprechauns?
Gateways to hell?
We examine them all and more, and discuss if they're real or if they're hardly paranormal.
Catch us every week wherever podcasts are available.
And remember, it's probably just the wind.
What do ghosts wear to formal events? Bow ties!
It is a great show. You should really check it out, subscribe, and have a listen to them.
Well, Nick.
Yes.
Are you ready to drink cocktails and talk about poison?
I'm always ready to drink cocktails and talk about poison.
Oh.
Always a choice.
Drink poison and talk about cocktails?
This is less tempting.
We'll go with the first one.
We'll go with the first one.
That's what he thinks. Well, it is Nick's story this week. Hooray!
Aren't
hooray.
you lucky?
Which means you got to choose this week's secret ingredient.
I did.
And this week's secret ingredient is...
Roses.
Rose! I put rose singular.
Rose.
Beautiful summer floral bloom. I do love a rose.
I'm glad to hear it.
I'm quite weird about my roses. I grow roses at home. I mean, I don't, grow them en masse like an actual proper gardener. I've got some...
young children's names. She talks to them.
They don't have names, but I do talk to them. You yell at me when I assign genders to the plants I'm tending to. Well, roses. What on earth will we make for our curious cocktail? Because we can't tell our story without a drink in hand.
So we are going to have a summer rose.
A summer rose?
A summer rose. That's what the cocktail is called. I've never had this before.
Never heard of it.
Never heard.
I think it's time to go away and mix up one of these bad boys. We are going to go to the Poisoner's Cabinet kitchen and shake up a storm. See you in a minute.
See you in a bit.
And we're back.
Hello.
So, Nick, we have a summer rose.
A summer rose.
It's very pretty.
It looks very pretty.
So I wasn't expecting this. I've never heard of a summer rose. Didn't know you were going to do this. So I was expecting some sort of, probably a coupe glass with something, I don't know, probably pastel pink or something. But we've got a martini glass with a very striking red hue to the drink.
Well, a two-tone a 2-level drink, red at the bottom and white and clear at the top.
Yeah, well, talk us through it.
So we have vodka.
Yeah.
We have creme de cacao.
Ooh.
Lychee.
Whoa.
And then grenadine, which gives us the layer of red at the bottom.
Oh my god!
So, yeah, so your vodka, creme de cacao and lychee all stirred over lots of ice to make it nice and cold, poured into a martini glass, and then grenadine added afterwards, sort of poured through the middle, and because it's so much thicker and heavier, it will sink to the bottom and create a 2-layered effect.
It sounds
intriguing.
Intriguing. Lychee, summer, perfumey chocolate.
So it sounds like it could be interesting, or it could be dreadful.
Oh, I'm really excited. Okay, so let's go in for a sip. Let's give it a taste. Wow.
That's interesting. I was not expecting that. The lychee is actually very nice.
That is amazing. I'm really impressed by that.
And the chocolate is not overpowering, but it comes through in the background.
God.
There's a certain hint of chocolatiness.
That has blown my mind. As you said, I was expecting full-on chocolatiness or just overpowering. I love a lychee.
But it's
love a lychee, me.
Actually surprisingly subtle.
It's really subtle. Much like a rose.
Much like a rose.
Like a finely perfumed rose.
It's going to be interesting when you get to the grenadine level, because also it has a mix. So once you get through the vodka, lychee, chocolate mix, you just going to have a mouthful of grenadine at the bottom.
Or just sugar. Maybe that just perks you up after drinking the alcohol.
I mean, it's obviously grenadine, pomegranate and strawberry, raspberry. So I don't know if you're actually meant to mix it all together. I mean, it seems too pretty to mix.
No, it looks beautiful.
But I mean, once it's poured and served in a lovely way, are you then meant to muddle the two things?
Well, we could try it now.
I really don't know.
Do you have a spoon or do you have a finger?
Well, I've got the end of a pen.
Oh, very master mixologist. There you go.
So,
all right, so you've mixed it up with your special stirring
So it's all now a very vibrant red. A lovely...
That's a
really
proper rose red.
Jewel red colour. It is considerably sweeter. I preferred it as it was before. You know what? I think it'd probably be really nice without the grenadine. The grenadine
really?
It looks stunning.
Maybe a drop of grenadine, like a teaspoon.
But yes, but I think less would be
better.
Would be better. But I think it's probably one of those ones you probably drink it until you hit the red and then stop, because Sinead hasn't mixed hers together. I think once you get through the clear level, you're going to have pure sugar.
It's one of those cocktails that could go very wrong. Is it lychee liqueur?
Yeah.
Lychee liqueur. Well, everyone has that in the shop. I think.
Well, I had to buy it specifically for this cocktail.
I think Chris and Cockeyed Bastard are probably going to hear this go, for fuck's sake! Lychee? What? They were like, roses, we can get roses. It's a delicate mix.
Yeah. So you got 1.5 shots vodka, 3/4 chocolate, half lychee, and then half grenadine.
I would order that at a bar.
Really impressed with that. I didn't think it was going to be as nice as it was.
But I've not hit the grenadine yet. Do you think would it work with like a cranberry or a pomegranate kind of instead of the grenadine? Because grenadine's so sweet.
Yeah, I mean, potentially worth an experiment.
Imagine with the cranberry, because that's nice and sharp.
But also cranberry, what you wouldn't get is...
You wouldn't get the layer.
You wouldn't get the layer because cranberry's not as viscous.
Vicious.
Not as viscous
bitch.
as the grenadine, which layers because of a different density.
Yeah, you wouldn't have that.
Whereas cranberry would just muddle all together and you would just have a pink drink.
People who love a sweet cocktail, definitely this is one to try.
You
will love it. You will absolutely love it.
I'm really pleased with that.
Oh, it's lovely. It's still, and it really feels like summer. It's like a summer bloom. And the shit I went through to take that picture just now.
I sent Sinead into my garden to find roses.
Now, when you say garden...
Well, my tiny little courtyard...
Which is also a jungle.
Which is also a jungle of rosebush, and the only rose flower was about 20 foot in the air. So she was standing on a chair, reaching through a rosebush, getting shredded to pieces.
I mean, to be fair, you did say, don't hurt yourself, don't go up there, but I was just like, no, I'm on a mission, I'm going to get them, I'm going to get it.
I was really going, get up there, climb the tree!
I felt like I was reenacting a scene from Beauty and the Beast or something, like taking the one rose from the garden, and then the beast comes, and then the furniture will come alive. That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, that's what let's go
one friggin' dancing chair. Well, we have our summer roses. Oh my god, I feel so fancy. Firmly in hand. Nick.
Hello.
Gonna take us on a story journey.
A story journey.
Yeah, I was always like, take us on a journey or tell us a story, and I decided to combine the two this week.
Why not? Absolutely.
Because much like the summer rose, I have learned to have a 2-layered approach.
Well done. Let's see how long that lasts. Right, yes, so it is me for a story this week. But today we are heading back to America.
Hooray!
We have not been for a few episodes.
We've travelled the world!
We have travelled the world since then. But we are heading back to the States to tell the story of Nanny Doss. The notorious serial killer, responsible for the deaths of 11 people over 30 years.
Bastard.
Starting in the 20s and going through to 1954.
Oh, she did well.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
So you may have heard of Nannie Doss before. I mean, she had many names. The Giggling Granny, the Lonely Hearts Killer, the Black Widow, or Lady Bluebeard.
Those vary in originality.
Yeah, no, I was slightly confused by Lady Bluebeard.
Well, Lady Bluebeard. Bluebeard is a great story. Do you know the story of Bluebeard?
Yes, so I had to Google it to find out why that connection. But yeah, obviously Bluebeard is I think it's a French tale.
It's a French tale of a woman who marries a man, and he has, spoiler alert, he has all of his wives in a torture chamber in the cellar. So, a great story though, Bluebeard, and Angela Carter's version of it is excellent.
Yeah, I also thought, ooh, was she a pirate? But apparently not. I was disappointed.
No, you're thinking of Blackbeard, and Yellowbeard, the piss take film.
So that was.
You would say Bluebeard. He must be a pirate.
He must
Jesus
be a pirate.
Christ.
He had a beard. He must be a pirate.
Giggling Granny. That is horrible.
And the Lonely Hearts Killer was a name I had heard before, but I did not know that was her.
Was it just that you got contacted through Lonely Hearts and the person was called, I'm the Lonely Hearts Killer? Like, this guy seems mysterious.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, we should meet for drinks.
Surprisingly not.
Yes.
So Nanny was born Nancy Hazel on November the 4th in 1905 in Blue Mountain, Alabama. So Nanny was one of 5 children born to Louisa and James Hazel. As we find frequently in these cases, Nanny didn't have a particularly jolly childhood. Father was incredibly controlling and had a vicious temper. Well, he forced his children to work on the farm instead of going to school. So at the age of 5, Nanny was cutting wood, ploughing fields, clearing weeds and rubbish.
At the age of 5?
At the age of 5, she was working in the farm. So her father did not have to pay farmhands. Who needs to pay farmhands when you've got children standing idle, learning to read? Nonsense.
Nonsense. None of that. They don't need to learn about maths.
They don't need
They
words.
don't need to know where equator is. Sorry, this is in Alabama,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes, it's Alabama, same, yeah.
Don't need to know where the equator is. But chopping wood, fine. Ploughing a bloody field.
Well, I don't think she was there, like, with the plough on her back, actually, like, walking. I think she was probably,
sure?
like...
Why have horses when I've got children standing idle?
This is very true. I think perhaps she was driving horses or something like that.
I choose to believe what I believe.
You choose to believe it, absolutely, yeah. When she was 7 years old, she went on a trip to visit relatives in the south of the state, and on the train journey there, the train had to brake suddenly. Nanny went flying, whacking her head on the metal bar in the seat in front of her. For years later, she suffered from migraines, blackouts, depression. All her future problems she blamed on this one incident, this head trauma that she had experienced.
Fair enough.
Well, potentially. I mean, really, to whack your head and she suffers horrendously for this throughout her life. But this is the one thing she keeps coming back to, as this has been the root of all her issues. So, I mean, as we said, Nanny didn't have a great childhood. I mean, she was seldom allowed to leave the farm, and she had very few friends.
She had a lot to do.
Well, indeed. But her favourite hobby, her favourite pastime, when she did get a few spare minutes, was reading her mother's romance novels, her mother's magazines and books, imagining her own romantic future. She particularly loved the Lonely Hearts columns.
Oh, yes.
Dreaming about being whisked away, a knight in shining armour would come and rescue her from the farm and carry her away to a happier life.
Aww. I'm on her side here.
Oh, yeah, so far, absolutely. I mean, she's just dreaming of a better future.
Man, has she got a shock in store when she actually finds out who the people writing those Lonely Hearts columns are.
I mean, as Nanny gets to dating age, she was eager to get out and meet her own Prince Charming. But her father made this quite difficult. Nanny and her sisters were forbidden to go to dances and social events. They were not allowed to wear makeup or fancy clothes. Well, he believed he was helping them. He would prevent them from getting molested. Because obviously, men cannot control themselves around makeup and fancy clothes.
Absolutely, no. Yeah. Just make yourself look like a sack of potatoes. Don't wear makeup. Men won't find you attractive without a bit of mascara on. My plan is foolproof.
I mean, he said this to his daughters, but I think perhaps what he was mainly concerned about is losing hands around the farm. If his daughters went and got married, who's going to run the plough now? I would have to pay someone. I'd have to get a horse. I'd have to pay someone. I mean, however, Nanny did manage to sneak away every now and again, and found the hayloft provided sufficient privacy to get to know some of the local boys a little bit better.
Oh my goodness!
Oh no! How scandalous!
Ooh, there's something very sexy about hayloft, though.
Is it really? Hay's going to get everywhere and it'll be spiky and pokey and none of that.
You speak from experience.
Then just picking hay out of places that you don't need hay, so none of that.
What happened on a farm to you, Nick?
At the age of 16. Moving on.
Moving on.
Nanny was first married at the age of 16 to Charlie Braggs, who was a co-worker at a linen factory where she worked when she wasn't needed on the farm. So in the off-season of the farm, obviously not allowed to actually go to school or get an education, she had to work and earn some money. I mean, her father approved of young Charlie. He wasn't like the other ruffians in Blue Mountain. They wasted their time playing those crazy new jazz records. None of that. And idling their lives away in the drinking and dancing and having fun.
In the Blue Mountains, really.
Yes.
It was one record that was being passed around.
Oh, yeah, but potentially. Charles was different, though, from those. He was respectful. His main focus was his mother. His mother, who was a widow. Most of his paycheck went to support her. He treated her like the Queen of Alabama. Quite right, thought James. Good old-fashioned respect for his elders. Perhaps his own daughter will learn a thing or two. And with her father's approval, they married after 4 months of dating.
Okay, so he's into his mother.
Oh, yes, he likes his mother. As Nanny and Charlie set out on their married life together.
Oh, God.
Nanny having visions of romance and a blissful family life. Who should come to live with them but dear Mother Braggs.
Mother Braggs.
Dear mother-in-law. Nanny had escaped an angry, controlling father, only for him to be replaced by a depressed and controlling mother-in-law.
And clearly she's not good enough for her son.
Well, nothing is ever good enough for her son. If Nanny wanted to dine out one evening, Mother Braggs didn't. Oh, my stomach, I can't possibly be left alone. Charlie would relent and agree to stay in for the evening, and the ailment would soon pass. If Nanny wants to go to the picture house, then the same sudden symptoms would strike, and they would stay at home playing mahjong at the kitchen table.
Yeah, by the way, when I said "oh God" a minute ago, it was not because of the story, it's because I've hit the grenadine.
You've hit the grenadine.
Grenadine.
And it is surprisingly like, nah. The Braggs have 4 daughters within 4 years of marriage. The first in 1923, and the last one in 1927. As the pressures of raising 4 children, pleasing and ever-demanding Mother Braggs, and looking after her husband, she finds solace in the liquor cabinet. And she chain smokes her way through most of the day. She's just smoking and drinking. She enjoys a cigarette throughout the day.
I'm fine with this,
and enjoys the liquor cabinet. Absolutely. So far.
What's her life been up until then? I don't know what happens after this.
Up until now, we're all
really
with Nanny.
Hard life. Everyone's been mean to her, and she's dealing with a bitch of a mother-in-law. Just shot out 4 girls as well. Let the woman have a smoke and a drink.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not disagreeing. Absolutely. This romance malarkey is really not living up to expectations.
No.
All these things she's read about in the books and the magazines. This is not quite what This is not quite what was planned for. Both Charlie and Nanny are deeply unhappy. They both suspect each other, quite correctly, of having numerous affairs. Her own indiscretions are easily hidden from Charlie because he's out shagging somewhere else at the same time.
Did they both come home at the same time? Where were you? Shopping?
Yeah, shopping.
Where were you? I was tending to the hay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Go about
what
the
about
business. I think that's exactly how it went. In early 1927, the couple lost their 2 middle daughters to suspected food poisoning. The children seemed fine at breakfast, but by lunch they were dead. Local medics claim natural deaths, the most detail I was able to find. Charlie, however, is more suspicious. He is well aware of Nanny's drinking, her bouts of depression, and he is concerned. But though he has no proof to go and talk to anyone. Shortly afterwards, their 4th daughter, Florine, is born. Charlie decides to quit while he's ahead, and he runs. He takes their first daughter, Malvina, with him, and he leaves.
Tell me that he takes his mother with him.
The mother is staying there.
Oh, for God's sake.
The mother is left behind. Not knowing where Charlie had gone or if or when he will be back, Nanny is forced to take a job at the cotton mill again. The newborn Florine and the ever-cranky Mother Braggs.
Oh, for God's sake.
But Charlie does return.
Okay.
Charlie does return. In the summer of 1928, he returns to the farm, Malvina in tow, another woman on his arm. Ugh. This other woman also has a child of her own from a previous relationship. Few words are spoken between the three of them, Nanny, Charlie, and his new lady friend.
Well, why is he there then?
He's there because it's his home. He owns the house. His mother is there.
Right.
He is Nanny. Sling your hook. Get out.
No.
Yes. I mean, she actually ends up leaving with both daughters, with Malvina and Florine.
Oh, okay.
But then Charlie is lucky. He is forever known as the husband who got away from Nannie Doss. Nannie is now homeless. She's got 2 young children in tow, and she is forced to return to her family's farm. She's older now. She cannot do the physical labour of working on the farm for her father, so she stays working at the cotton mill. But at least that gets her away from her nagging parents.
Well, yeah, I mean, if she just rocks up with 2 kids and then Dad's like, great, you're here, great. Okay, so the plough needs doing and there's wood that needs chopping. I'll just shoot the horse and we'll eat it. You can do all of the horse stuff.
Pretty
That's
much, yeah.
fine.
He's probably eyeing up the grandchildren going, you can drag a plough.
Oh, look, that baby. Yes, that baby's doing nothing.
Exactly. But she quite enjoys, say, getting out of the house, going to her employment at the cotton mill. She also enjoys the look she gets from some of the chaps who work in the machine shop there, so she's not opposed to the eye that she gets.
Is she particularly attractive, Nanny?
In her youth, yes, I think she was considered quite fetching. So yes, she certainly caught an eye or two. Absolutely.
Was she just because she's so desperate for attention? Was she just walking through the cotton mill and just opening her blouse, going?
I mean, it's potential.
Or just walking around with just one out, just one out. Hey lads, that's like what you see.
I did not find exact references to that, but I didn't not find references to that. So,
so we can't discount it. We cannot confirm or deny. She didn't get one tit out.
Exactly.
Just walk around the cotton mill.
She's not going to make the same mistake again, though, with the chap that she chooses. She's not going to be marrying another immature mountain boy with a mother complex. She's not going to marry someone with wandering hands.
It's a terrible disease.
No, absolutely none of that. Nanny, even though Nanny herself has spent most of her first marriage in someone else's bed, so Nanny turns to the Lonely Hearts columns in the papers. She writes long letters to the men whose ads who interest her. Well, many men reply, but one man in particular, he sounds interesting. He sounds like my sort of chap.
Oh, really?
23-year-old Frank Harrelson. He writes poetry. He sends her a photo. He looks like Clark Gable. Desperately handsome. An excellent turn of phrase. They meet, and it is love at first sight. Frank proposes. Nanny accepts. They are married in 1929. Less than a year after they have first...
Oh, right. I thought it was like the first day. It was like, marry me! Yes.
No. They have been corresponding for some time.
Right.
They meet, and soon after they're married. So all this happens within a year.
Of course, it's the
love.
old version of texting, isn't it?
Exactly.
You just talk and you exchange the love and the flirting, flirty text, flirty letter, darling.
As the first months of marriage pass, the rose-tinted glasses of Nanny's romantic dreams start to fall away. Nanny realises that her tall, handsome, rugged husband. Not only that, but he has spent time in jail for assault.
Oh, yeah.
Nanny has taken her 2 daughters from the loving arms of their grandparents and moved them across the state to Jacksonville. And they can see the anger in Nanny's face when she has to go and fetch him from the drunk tank in the mornings. It's not a jolly time, but life went on. And over the years, Frank's drinking is constant. He is a violent man. There, he beats her. He yells and threatens the children. Hugely vocal yelling, shouting, threats. I mean, anger and hate build within Nanny, but she stuck with him for 16 years.
This is horrible.
Oh, it's not a jolly...
God.
Yes, there's a problem with doing a podcast about poisoning people. It can't always be jolly.
No, it can't always. You can't always start off going, "Oh, they're a bastard. They're a bastard." Jesus Christ.
No, it's not fun. It gets worse.
Good. Okay.
But I mean, by the start of the 1940s, Nanny's 2 daughters were grown and had married. Malvina, the eldest, had a son, Robert, in 1943. And in February 1945, she went into a labour again. Now, Malvina suffered quite badly throughout the labour, was in a lot of distress, and called for her mother to be by her bedside. I mean, Nanny remains throughout the night, giving orders to Malvina's husband, Mosey, and really keeping the midwives busy, tasks to be done to making sure Malvina is as comfortable as is possible and the labour passes as swiftly as is possible. Yeah. Eventually, a little girl arrives, and Nanny celebrates with her daughter and son-in-law. Within an hour, the child is dead.
Oh, God.
Details are vague, and if this is true, it is actually one of the worst things I've ever read about. In Malvina's conscious state from the painkillers she had been taking throughout labour. She has looked over at her mother, and she's never sure if what she sees is real or is a nightmare, but she thinks she sees her own mother sticking a hat pin into the baby's head.
No.
Which is about the most vile thing I've ever had to write.
Oh my god.
I mean, unsurprisingly, Malvina is desperately disturbed. She still doesn't know if it is a hallucination, weird fevered dream brought on through the thing, or if what she has seen is real.
Oh god.
It's a horrible thing. Even more concerning for her, I mean, the doctors are unable to account for the child's death. They're unable to explain it. In some ways, I think, well, if Nanny was responsible in that vile way,
yes,
that's going to be noticeable. That's not a subtle thing.
It sounds like the most horrifying and upsetting and completely understandable hallucination of someone who's just lost their baby.
I mean, Malvina tells her husband and her own sister about what she imagines, what she's dreamed, and she's actually even more terrified when they both tell her that they had seen Nanny earlier in that day idly playing with a hat pin through her fingers, like flicking it through her fingers. What? She had one with her. Nothing can be proved. Nothing can be proved one way or the other. The doctors cannot explain the death, cannot say one way or the other. Malvina has seen what she thinks she's seen. Both her husband and her sister have provided some sort of corroborating evidence that it's a possibility. Whose mother would do such a thing? Now we fast forward 6 months, and Malvina's son, Robert, is dead. While staying with his grandmother, something terrible happens. No one knows what happens. The doctors diagnose his death as asphyxia from unknown. Nanny is beside herself with grief and is heartbroken. Right up to the funeral, she is wailing in despair. As the coffin is lowered into the ground, she faints, collapses. A couple of months later, a life insurance check arrives in the post for Nanny.
No. What, for which son?
For Malvina's first son, Robert.
So she's taken out a life insurance on the child?
Her grandson.
Her grandson.
Yes.
Okay. All right, this is now...
Nope.
I
mean, no one suspects foul play. I mean, that is the last thing from anyone's
Nobody wants
mind.
To think that. Nobody wants to
Well,
think
no one
that,
wants to think that, and it's certainly not the first thing that will spring to mind. In August of 1945, America is celebrating the end of the Second World War. Japan has just surrendered, and the troops are on their way home. Every town across the country has the bunting out, and the balloons are flying. And on the 15th of September, Frank, she's still married to Frank, heads to the bar to welcome home some friends.
He's welcoming home his friends. Where the hell was he in the bloody war?
Well, yes. As he returns home in a fully festive mood, things soon turn sour. Nanny is there, and he demands sex.
You just didn't beat around the bush at all, then.
Nope.
I don't think I've ever heard you use that word.
What, sex?
Sex.
I know.
I'm shocked.
He demands...
He would like to visit her lady garden.
He demands a visit to the hayloft. And Nanny's not so keen.
Fair enough.
Nanny refuses. He slams his fist into the wall next to her head.
Ooh.
And he forces himself on her.
Okay. No.
Yeah.
Right.
Next day, Nanny, seething, furious that this has happened, not the first time, now vows to get even. She is outside tending her rose garden, her only place of solace. Roses. See, we have a rose in a very jolly, delightful part of the story.
Every rose has its thorn.
She comes across her husband's corn liquor jar that he has buried in the ground. Why he has buried it, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, he's not a secret drinker.
She might throw it away.
Well, but yes, maybe so. She comes across his stash, and now Nanny spies her chance. She takes the jar to the storeroom, pours out some of the liquid, and tops the jar up with rat poison.
Rat poison?
Arsenic-based rat poison.
Arsenic! Arsenic alarm! Arsenic alarm! There it is.
There it is.
Oh, God, okay.
She buries the liquor jar back in the garden and goes about the rest of her day. That evening, Frank Harrelson dies in agony. But with Frank out of the way, Nanny is again free to find love and romance at last. Next time it will be better.
Right, okay. She has a system.
In 1947, Nanny finds herself in Lexington, North Carolina. Going through the Lonely Hearts columns, she comes across Arlie Lanning. Like her, she believes he is a romantic soul looking for the one. They meet, sparks fly. 2 days later, they are married.
Whoa, okay. Really didn't wait around there, did they?
But like Frank before him, Arlie turns out to be an alcoholic and a womanizer.
Oh, for God.
But this time the tables turn. Whenever life gets too hectic or Arlie drinks too much, Nanny disappears. She pulls down the suitcase from the cupboard and goes, sometimes for weeks or months on end. She would sometimes leave a note on the dining table, just saying, gone. Arlie would occasionally get a telegram saying, send money. Home soon.
Sounds great.
Yeah, out of the blue, she would come home, and the couple would act like nothing had happened. Arlie knew the reason she had left was because of his drinking, and for a time he would sober up. He would do his best to become sober, and they would play happy families. Apple pies were cooling on the windowsill, fresh laundry hung in the yard amongst the rose bushes. When Arlie couldn't resist the drink anymore, it all comes crashing down and Nanny would disappear again. So she was absent quite frequently. When she was home, she was a pillar of the community. Regularly attended church and was often seen at the women's meetings, the women's church meetings, where they would all support her for her dreadful drunken husband. Poor Nanny. When the town turns out for Arlie's funeral in 1950,
oh, for God.
It's not out of respect for the dead, but in support of the heartbroken widow. She had put up with so much through her husband's drinking, his liaisons. I mean, yes, he had died suddenly. Heart failure, thought the doctors. There was something that caused his heart to fail, but no reason to worry about what that was.
No reason for that. People are old. People die.
Exactly. People die.
It's what, the 40s now? 30s? Is it 40s?
We're now in the 1950s. We're now in the 50s.
It's the 50s. People die. People die. People smoke and drink. They die.
Yeah, I mean, no need for any of those pesky autopsies. No.
None of that.
I mean,
the devil's work.
Any number of things could have caused the sweating, vomiting, struggling for breath. Speaking to neighbours, she says, I mean, poor Arlie, she says. You know what he said to me before he breathed his last? Nanny, he says. Nanny, it must have been the coffee.
I mean, why? Why would you put that in there? Oh, it must have been the coffee.
Must have been the coffee.
Nobody was asking you, Nanny. We can see he died of a heart attack. But it was the coffee, wasn't it? Yes, the coffee.
On the 21st of April, 8 weeks after Arlie's death, the tidy, nice little house that they shared burns to the ground. It was a bit of luck, really, seeing that the house had been left to Arlie's sister in the will. I mean, it was entirely coincidental that Nanny had just left the house with her favourite item, her television set, before the fire under her arm, going to get it repaired.
She's bloody strong,
actually. Look, the house has burnt down.
TVs in the 50s were massive.
Yeah, absolutely. She's taken it for repair, and while she's been out, the house is now a pile of ash.
Ground. Well, that's good. Well, she's used to pulling ploughs, you know.
So. well, indeed.
Yeah, she's been trained from a young age.
She loves her romance stories.
Of course, she likes the stories.
Absolutely,
Mama's watching the stories.
Her stories. I mean, after the fire, Nanny actually lodges with Arlie's mother. The insurance company write a cheque for the house to Arlie Lanning, deceased, which goes straight into the bank account of his widow. As soon as the funds cleared, Nanny ups and leaves North Carolina. But not before the elderly Mrs. Lanning dies strangely in her sleep.
She's on a roll now. She's on a roll.
She's got a taste for it. She knows she can get away with it.
Apparently so.
In 1952, the Diamond Circle Club is a correspondence association for those looking for life partners. The suitor and ladies each receive a monthly newsletter showing off the newest members, promising them their heart's desires. And Nanny is enthralled.
I would be.
Absolutely. It sounds marvellous.
Far better than Tinder.
God, yeah.
I want a newsletter. I want something printed in sepia. I mean, I'm married. I'm saying, I want it for you, Nick. I want it for you so we can look through together.
I mean, she's getting a bit older now. She's not turning heads quite the way she used to. Maybe she still knows how to catch someone's eye. She still has her girlish giggle. She's more than capable of enticing her true love.
But her giggle is her flirting thing.
She has a flirtatious giggle.
That's terrifying.
It's done her well so far.
I know, but anyone who just goes up to you and just giggles at you, it makes you feel like your house is haunted.
Well, I'm sure it's probably in response to something desperately amusing that the chap has said.
She's been waiting for ages.
Yeah, exactly. It's going, say something funny. Say something funny.
Yes. So I've been using the mechanics of the... oh my good word, sir.
I see you've done that before. That she has decided, though, that the time has come to stop wasting her efforts on the young, the immature men that she had been setting her sights on before, and it's time to find someone more mature.
How old is she now?
I think she's now in her towards the end of her 30s.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm not saying that's fine. I'm just 30. Sorry, it's just like it feels like she's lived such a fucking horrible life so far that I'm like, she must be about 60.
No, I think she's coming towards the end of her 30s, potentially.
But that is the age at which we all kind of go in your 30s. You go, I'm done with boys. Boys are silly. I'm going to go date men.
And one day she receives a letter from a retired businessman, Richard Morton. She was smitten. I mean, after they met, Richard himself writes to the Diamond Circle Club, asking them to delete his and Nanny's names from their lists and to thank them for introducing him to the sweetest and most wonderful woman he has ever met.
Oh.
They are married in October 1952.
So she can certainly beguile the men, can't she?
Yes.
It's not just the giggle. There's substance. She doesn't just giggle and stand there for half an hour.
No.
She has some substance behind it.
Most certainly. And they moved to their new home in Kansas. The flat plains of Kansas are quite different from the quite dramatic mountain scenery from Alabama that she's grown up with. I mean, at last she believes she has found the one. He is tall, dark, handsome. He's so generous. Buys her clothes, he buys her jewellery, buys her gifts. But as it often does with Nanny, the reality soon sets in. Richard is incredibly boring.
Oh no.
He's so dull.
No! But he's nice.
He's nice.
He buys her shit. Just take the nice shit. Don't.
But so boring. Not only that, he's in debt. So much.
Okay, no, that is bad.
Debt.
That is bad. Don't go out with someone in debt.
I mean, when he does find
boring and rich is fine.
When he does find some money for his gifts and his generousness to Nanny, he always buys two. What? One for her and one for the other woman on the other side of town.
He's just figured out how to get a woman. Just buy her shit.
Buy her shit. That's what they want. They want sparkly things.
They do.
I mean, Richard's occasional trips into town started taking longer and longer. And when Nanny asks why it takes so long, no reason, he says, just dawdling. One day Nanny follows him on one of his excursions and finds that he's seeing someone else. Nanny had made a mistake again.
Men!
But Richard Morton had made a bigger mistake. She had married a phony, but he had married a killer. Only 2 months after walking down the aisle, Nanny was answering the ads in other Lonely Hearts columns.
Well, if he's shacked up with someone else.
Yeah. She would race to the mailbox each day to get the post first, just in case one of her admirers had written back to her.
Yes, it'd be a bit weird if he was opening that.
Yeah.
Yes, this letter from the bank is quite explicit.
She would then sneak off to the bathroom to swoon over their amorous notes.
She was swooning in the bathroom.
She was.
He just kept hearing her fainting upstairs with every line that she read.
Passionate stuff. The gentlemen writing to her believe that she is a widow. They offer to sweep her away from all her troubles, but there was one small problem. Richard is still very much alive.
Yes, I gathered that.
But this doesn't pose too much of a problem from Nanny. Husband number 4 was destined to go the same way as the previous two, until a telegram arrives and scuppers her plans. Her father has passed away. Her father in Alabama has died. But Nanny is not overly bothered, particularly. But what is more concerning is that her mother announces that she is coming to stay with her and Richard. And in 1953, Louisa, her mother, arrives in Kansas. The plans for her husband may have to be put on hold.
Shit.
Or would they? We don't know if Louisa has suspicions all along about what her interesting character, her daughter, had turned into, or was she simply in the way of Nanny's plans? But within weeks of her arrival in January 1953, she had herself fallen desperately ill with chronic stomach pains, and she died.
Oh dear.
Yes. 3 months later, Richard Morton joins Louisa. Same symptoms, and yet again, no one asks a single question.
Nobody. No one's asking. This is in the 50s.
This is the 50s.
This is not of a time, a long time ago, where you can't possibly join the dots. People should know.
Yeah, oh yes, indeed.
Okay.
But I think what has not helped is that several of the things have been carried across over in different states. So she's gone to different places, so necessarily those police departments and things aren't talking to each other. An elderly woman herself has passed away. She old. And then her husband months later.
He's sort of kind of old.
He's sort of kind of old, but he's very boring.
He's boring. He bored himself to death. Boredom, the greatest poison of them all.
Next, we introduce a man, Sam Doss, where obviously Nanny takes her final name, Nanny Doss, from. Sam had been one of Nanny's pen pal lovers, and as soon as Richard was in the ground, she jumped on a bus and heads to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, Tulsa, nice.
Sam was a widow himself. He had lost his entire family to a tornado in Madison County.
That's rough.
It's
rough and also slightly impressive. I mean, it's awful if anyone's ever actually lost anyone to a tornado. I know they're a thing. We do not have them in England. They're not a thing. There was one once, I think, somewhere, and people went, ugh. But yeah, to lose your entire family to a tornado.
I mean, Sam is 59 years old. He is an ex-minister.
Ooh, right.
Used to be a minister. So he is a solid, God-fearing man. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke.
Okay, good.
He doesn't play dice. He doesn't swear. He's careful with his appearance. He's thrifty with his bank account. He doesn't lose his temper. He loves nature. He sees the good in everything.
Is he Jesus?
And everyone.
He's sort of scoring high and maybe the boring monitor.
Yeah, I mean, he proposes in June 1953 and Nanny leaps at the chance. But he is a complete change from her previous husbands. He is a older, wiser, a good man.
His husband
This is now husband number 5.
5, right.
He works a steady job.
He's a minister.
He's an ex-minister.
Oh, okay.
He now works. He helps around the house.
Nice.
He enjoys cooking.
Oh, right. Okay.
And he was certainly never threatening or violent towards anyone.
Sounds lovely.
To Nanny, he is unbelievably and irrecoverably boring.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we are. She is just looking for danger.
She's looking for this romance to be whisked off her feet, for someone to come and rescue her and lead her in a life of excitement and fun and romance and passion.
And we will come back to, I'm sure, at length, but therein lies the problem of the unattainable idea of romance, that you've got to be wild and crazy, and you've got to be passionate, you've got to be a Heathcliff, but Heathcliff was an abusive brute, and then when you get a nice steady man, he's not Heathcliff enough.
Precisely.
So, God damn it! Stop going for Heathcliffs, people! He's not real.
I mean, Nanny finds him far too conservative and set in his ways.
He made dinner.
I mean, books and television, they are meant to enrich the mind, not peddle the filth of romance novels.
She likes her stories.
She likes her stories. Bedtime, 9:30, not a minute later. Sex,
actually, that's fine for me
in
now.
the diary.
What?
Only on very certain days when pre-planned. None of this spontaneous nonsense.
None of that spontaneous nonsense.
No one needs that.
I'm not kidding, as in, like, there's a little bit of me that's like, that sounds great.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
9:30, I am fine going to bed at 9:30. Sex, is this when we're doing? Oh, great, because I can plan for this now. I can plan for this shit. I can bring my A game, babe. It's fine. You want? No, for God's sake, I just ate, or just I'm sleepy. I want to watch the stories. Yeah, so I'm on his side now.
I mean, to Nanny, his thriftiness becomes unbearable.
Okay, that's not acceptable.
Heating is only allowed on the very coldest of nights.
All right, no. He has lost my sympathy 100. I need it to be warm all the time.
Lights are only allowed at certain times, and there's only one light in a room. And when you leave that room, the light is turned off. So if you want to go and get when you get something from the kitchen, you turn the light off in the room you're in. Go to the kitchen, turn the light on, do what you need to do, go back, turn the light on again. Also, furniture and things is expensive. So you must have a protective doily on all things. Quite right. Doilies everywhere.
To protect the furniture from your ass. Protective doily.
Protective doilies.
What the fuck is a doily gonna do? This is in the 50s where you have plastic on furniture. That's just
Well, this is
bad,
rural,
but still.
this is rural 50s. So we're looking.
We can't afford plastic.
So I think it's doilies.
Doilies. Husband who's obsessed with doilies.
Who doesn't need more doilies?
We all need doilies on our sofas. I'm going to come round one day. I'm going to put doilies on your beautiful sofas, your beautiful stylish sofas. There we are, Nick.
And I'll come in and cry. I mean, Nanny, unsurprisingly, she has to get away. She takes a trip back to Alabama. Sam is hot on her tail, with letters begging forgiveness, promises that he will change his ways. To show his commitment, he opens his wallet to let her enjoy the lifestyle that she wants. But that's not enough for her. He gives her equal access to his bank accounts. His money is her money. He also agrees to take out 2 life insurance policy on himself, naming her as the beneficiary.
What does
Sam.
he think will happen?
In the worst case scenario, he is going to provide for Nanny for her future when
Fair
he
enough.
is
If
no
he's
longer
that stupid,
around.
if he's that stupid chasing after her, then fine.
One September evening in 1954, Sam sits at the dinner table. From the kitchen, Nanny appears with an amazing prune cake. Prune to finish. Prunes.
A prune cake.
That very nearly became a secret ingredient as well.
Prune. I like a prune.
Yeah,
I like a prune.
indeed.
I prefer a date, but still.
So to finish the evening's meal, and Sam enjoys a large slice of prune cake.
Oh, you would.
Who
You would.
Who
It'll keep
doesn't?
you regular as well.
Yeah. That night, Sam wakes drenched in sweat,
Yeah.
clutching his stomach, retching. Oh, it's not good.
Well, that's what prunes do to you.
No, this is more vicious and more unpleasant than a normal prune activity.
Well, you've never seen me with a prune.
Can't
I'm
say I
very
have.
sensitive to prunes and
can't.
raisins. Yes.
Can't say I have. And I don't particularly ever want to. He is bedridden for days, tenderly cared for by Nanny, until the doctor finally decides he has to go to hospital. He is in a hospital for 23 days, recovering from the prunes. The hospital diagnosed a severe infection of the digestive tract. By prunes.
Prunes, the greatest poison of them all.
In October, he is released from the hospital, and Nanny is waiting for him at home, possibly slightly annoyed about all this bloody wasted time being in hospital. She allows him an afternoon to rest and settle back in before preparing an amazing welcome home feast. She wakes him from his nap with a nice hot cup of coffee.
Lovely.
At the dining table, he tucks into delicious roast pork, washed down with more coffee. Coffee and pork? Not too sure about that.
Sorry, I'm still picturing this in the 1800s for some reason. Yeah. It's the 50s.
No, we're in the
it's
50s.
Like they had more stuff.
Yeah. He likes his coffee. He likes his pork.
I'm understanding why he went to hospital. That is not good for the colon.
By midnight, Sam Doss is dead. But this time, Nanny has been in too much of a rush. She hasn't thought it through. The doctor who examined Sam just before his release, only the day before, is concerned, dismayed that his patient, who was doing so well, is now dead. And he orders an autopsy.
Finally!
Sam Doss has not died of natural causes. In his stomach is enough pork, coffee, and arsenic to kill 20 people.
Overdosed in pork.
Unable to explain where the arsenic had come from, Nanny Doss is arrested for murder.
Should have hidden it in the applesauce.
At first, Nanny denies any involvement in Sam Doss. Why on earth would she kill her poor, loving husband? But the police don't give up. No. They remind Nanny that arsenic is not naturally found in pork or coffee, and it must have got in there somehow. Hour after hour, the questions go on. Did she poison the prune cake too? Poison me? Giggles Nanny as she leafs through her latest Romantic Hearts magazine. Ordinarily,
what in the police
in
station?
the police station.
Poison me.
Yeah. Ordinarily, the police wouldn't have put up with this sort of behaviour. Absolutely not. But it's so difficult to get angry with this sweet, jolly grandma.
Yes, it is.
How
What?
difficult. No, you can't shout at a lovely old lady.
Her husband has just died, and she's reading Romance Lonely Heart magazines.
As the investigation goes on, they started to dig into Nanny's past. During another interrogation, Special Agent Ray Page confronts her.
Oh, Ray Page. Nice name.
They have found out about the other 3 dead husbands. The similar symptoms. Could this giggling old lady really be responsible? He snatches her magazine away from her. He wouldn't let me watch my television shows, she says. He made me sleep without the fan on the hottest nights. I mean, what is a woman to do in such a situation? I mean, and then she asks for her magazine back.
Wow. That's cold.
Everything comes out.
That's just, oh wow.
Richard Morton.
She did literally just, after he digs into the past,
Yeah.
takes the magazine
Takes the
away,
magazine.
and then she goes, killed them all, there we are.
Well, yeah, what am I to do?
What am I to do? Give me my magazine back?
Yeah. Well, these are the things he did to me.
The stories.
I couldn't read my stories. I couldn't watch my stories.
I didn't have the fan on.
Couldn't have the fan on. What option did I have?
Oh, that's wow.
Everything comes out. Richard Morting, Arlie Lanning, Frank Hudson, men who at first she had loved, but had turned out to be terrible disappointments to her. If their ghosts are in this room, she says, they are either drunk or sleeping. The morning after the confessions, the detectives from Tulsa take trips to Kansas, North Carolina and Alabama to oversee the exhumations of her husbands. Her mother, her sister, her nephew, and Arlie Lanning's mother. Her husbands and mother were found to have massive amounts of arsenic in the remains. The rest were all found to have died of asphyxia. They strongly believe they have been smothered in their sleep. The press locates Nanny's first husband, Charlie Bragg, the one who got away, the one who survived. And he becomes a minor celebrity, so giving interviews about his memories of Nanny, about his life with Nanny, how he was lucky to escape, how he feared for everything. Charlie actually asked the remains of their two daughters, their two middle children who passed away, were exhumed and tested too, to see if they had been victims. But it seems that the police felt that they had quite enough evidence against Nanny that it was not justified. A quartet of psychiatrists declare her mentally sane, and she is sent to trial in Tulsa for the murder of Sam Doss. Only the murder of Sam Doss, because we are looking at different murders committed across different states. And on the 17th of May 1955 she pleads guilty to the murder. I mean, her lawyers have advised just the sheer weight of evidence and the history behind her is just like, go guilty.
And in Oklahoma at that time, death penalty?
Well, not because she's a woman. If she had been a man, absolutely death penalty, but because she is a woman, she is spared the electric chair and is sentenced to life imprisonment.
Wow.
So Nanny spends the rest of her days in Oklahoma State Penitentiary. She is never tried for the other murders, which, yes, she's caught, but I suppose is there a sense of no particular justice for those the other families. So Nanny, as I say, Nanny spends the rest of her days in Oklahoma State Penitentiary, no doubt still dreaming that that knight in shining armour will come to take her away. And that is the story of Nanny Doss. A terrifying, the giggling granny.
When did she die?
It was in the late 50s.
What a story!
There we go.
Nanny Doss, a very famous story.
Very famous story.
Well known, mentioned to us a few times to say, "Are we going to do it?" And we've done it. Done it justice.
Some unfortunately very terrifying things in there.
That is a really troubling story. Everything as you've laid it out, it's hard because there's sort of two versions of Nanny. There is the murderer and possible child killer, which we can come on to. There's also someone who has been abused, who has had a horrible life in her family, from her father, has gone on to marry, dreaming of romance, dreaming of love, hoping for some way out. Yeah. And to have married alcoholics, rapists, adulterers.
She has a horrid life. I mean, not that you can excuse it, but are those ones... We don't reasoning behind it, or
it would be wrong to just go, oh, if you're a murderer, then there's no mitigating circumstances whatsoever, or whatever. You know, you shouldn't commit. Obviously, the one lesson is you shouldn't commit murder. You said about the head injury.
We have the head injury there, which she maintained throughout was a reason for her behaviour.
Which it might have been.
Which it may well, absolutely. It may well have.
There's loads of stories about people who have head trauma, and because of the constant pain and the tinnitus and stuff like that, it makes you psychotic. So maybe that's a reason, and also, bloody hell, it was horrible, her life.
It was horrible, absolutely. And I have some sympathy for the husbands. Not the last husband. He was a nice man. He was a boring man. But he treated her well.
Yeah.
Sam Doss.
There's a moment where, with all of the abuse, or whatever's happened to you, it wouldn't happen to everyone. Maybe it takes a certain kind of person, but the switch flips, and just, I don't want to tolerate this anymore, and I don't want to deal with this. Then we come on to the kids.
Then we come on to, yes, well, precisely.
Where is this sudden leap? It's horrible to bring up the baby death again, if that happened. Possibly it is a moment of postnatal depression psychosis, and you can completely understand that. It is not...
That is the only one she ever continued to deny.
Yeah.
Throughout all of this, that the baby she had nothing to do with.
And you would think there would be evidence.
There would be something like that there would be physical evidence.
There doesn't seem to be any reason. But then you've got the life insurance then.
You've got life insurance on the grandson. Is it because he's a... Well, I say because he's a male, but no, she killed her own mother.
Yeah.
So
she's killed her mother who's in the way.
It's not an entire against men thing.
But if she's taken out a life insurance on the baby, she's started to see life as dispensable.
Yes, on her eldest grandson, Robert.
Which is suspicious.
Yes.
Which is too suspicious.
So he's when that happens, he's about 3, I think. He's about 3 years old. The grandson who dies of asphyxia.
Well, as you said at the end of it, when asked, she has this seemingly demeanour of, but he did this. So what was it?
Absolutely.
It was perfectly justified.
It was from what I can read, it was such a chilling thing to be actually the police interrogating and questioning her, and when she actually starts to admit stuff, it's just like people actually just don't believe that this seemingly nice. This is a grandmother who is cheerfully saying how she killed her husbands. The police don't believe it to begin with. I mean, how on earth could a woman who seems to be so lovely do these such terrible, terrible things? I mean, is she just the best actress in the world?
Or does she genuinely believe?
That she has been so hard done by in her life that she had deserved these a fantastic husband, a loving family, and all this, that she was entitled to that, and she didn't get it, so she was justified.
I think it's the case that she 100% believed it, and that makes you the best actress in the world.
Well, yes.
If you completely believe what you're doing, then everyone will believe you. I think it was just the prunes, though, and that first case with the last husband. The prune cake.
The prune cake.
It was just prunes. Just prunes are evil, and they need to die. What a story, though. Nanny Doss. Big case, big story. What do you think, people? What do you think of this one? This one's a thinker. But tell us what you think. Come and have a chat with us on social media and share your views and your ideas or other stories you want to hear from us.
And I would definitely say, try a summer rose.
Do try a summer rose.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Such a nice invention.
It's not stuff you're going to have in the cupboard, I must admit. But if you fancy a cocktail, it's worth buying a bottle of lychee liqueur and some white creme de cacao.
You'll always have a use for the white creme de cacao.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So many recipes. Yeah. And you know what? It's a really simple and easy dinner party drink.
It is.
You know what? If people come round and you want to look fancy and they're all sitting outside at your fire pit at a safe distance and you bring out a tray of these, everyone will go, ooh! Yeah. And then be secretly jealous of you. They'll covet your lovely things.
They shall. That they shall.
Give it a go and share your cocktail pictures on the social medias because we love to see them. We love to know what you're drinking. We love to know what you're listening to and what you're talking about and what you're basically doing. Whether you have
at
clothes
all
on.
times.
Yep. You know. Have you ever had a roll in the hay? Is it sexy?
Does it get everywhere? It's not sexy. It's painful and spiky.
And do check out our Patreon. If you have questions about joining Patreon and what we do over there, we are here for you. So we have been the people inside the poisonous cabinet. We will see you next week. And remember, your loved ones are trying to kill you.
Bye-bye.